gel is too. Don't worry, it's supposed to. It's a blue native page. So blue native page is a technique that we can use in the lab in order to separate protein complexes as complexes rather than separating proteins as individual kind of denatured strands. Short and sweet version, and then we'll go into the details. So with an SDS page, you unfold proteins and then you send them traveling through a gel mesh, and they separate according to their size in terms of their length in amino acids. In a native page, you don't unfold the proteins, you don't denature them, instead you run them as is, and this is going to allow the complexes to stay complexes. So with an SDS page, you're going to lose the information about whether a protein was part of a complex, and you keep that information when you're running a native page. The SDS in an SDS page is SDS, sodium didecyl sulfate. It's got a negative charge, and so not only does it help denature or unfold the proteins, but it also makes them negatively charged, which they need to travel through the gel towards the positive charge. You provide that negative charge in a blue native page using Comasi Brilliant Blue, which is a dye that is also negatively charged, but it's going to gently bind to the protein and kind of hug the complexes, allowing them to travel as complexes through the gel. And so this is going to keep those complexes together, and so you can compare how things look on a native page to how things look on an SDS page to see in the SDS page what was part of the complex, and then on the native gel, was it part of a complex? We take a little sample of our protein and we run it through this gel mesh. This is where you get the PAGE and PolyAcrylamide Gel Electrophoresis. The mesh is made of polyacrylamide. It's a thin slab, and you basically run your proteins in lanes down the slab, and then the bigger proteins are going to kind of get tangled up more, they're going to go slower, and the littler ones are going to go faster. Now, in an SDS page, the SDS stands for sodium didecyl sulfate, and the sodium didecyl sulfate is a detergent. It's an artificial soap. Basically, what's going to happen is that you use heat to denature or unfold the protein, and then you coat it in this detergent. And this is going to keep the protein unfolded, and it's going to keep it soluble as it travels through the gel. Now, how is it actually going to want to travel through the gel? Well, at the bottom of the gel is going to be a positive charge. And so the proteins that are negatively charged are going to travel through to the bottom. And not all proteins are negatively charged, however, and so the dye, thankfully, it also has a negative charge. So the SDS, it has kind of this long hydrophobic tail and then this hydrophilic or water-like head. And so it's got this negatively charged head and then this long kind of greasy tail. And when the proteins unfold, they expose those, and then the SDS kind of globs on, and it keeps it though from clumping up, because now you've got this kind of tail on it that's covering those hydrophobic parts, and it's got the hydrophilic head. And importantly, that head is negatively charged. So now your protein's negatively charged, your protein now can travel through the gel. Great. But you've unfolded a protein, which is good for some things, because now if you look, the proteins are going to run according to their length in amino acids. So that's all good. You can see kind of what size proteins are in your thing, but if those proteins were actually kind of connected, they were hanging out with one another in complexes, well, with an SDS page, you're not going to know. The only way that you would know if they were kind of like covalently linked through something like a disulfide bond, which is why in SDS page, however, we typically use reducing conditions, and so we add like beta-mercaptoethanol to our loading buffer, which is then going to break up those disulfide cross-links. But most of the complexes we talk about, most of the multi-protein complexes that we deal with are going to be just kind of held together through interactions called non-covalent bonds, intermolecular forces. And so these are going to quickly come apart when we make the proteins unfold. Because the protein shapes were making it so that they had parts that were going to interact with one another nicely in the position to interact with one another. And now you're saying, okay, screw all that. We're just going to unfold these proteins and send them traveling through. So, how are we going to actually separate the proteins, however, as complexes? We need to treat them gently. So, no more heating them up, no more denaturation. Instead, we want to kind of treat them with TLC on ice, all that nice stuff. But there's a problem, because maybe our proteins are negative, and so maybe they're negatively charged, and so we can just send them traveling through the gel and all's okay. But what if our proteins aren't negatively charged? If they're positively charged, they're actually going to like jump out of the well and then go into the buffer, and then, oh man, protein. So we need to give them a negative charge. The way that we gave the proteins a negative charge in the SDS-PAGE, however, was as part of that SDS, which was helping denature our protein. And so that's out. What can we use? Well, enter Comasi Brilliant Blue. So that dye that's kind of like everywhere in biochemistry because it binds to proteins. You see it in the Bradford assay, you see it in your Comasi staining of protein dyes. It binds to proteins, but it does so gently, and it has a negative charge. So what you do in a blue native page is you actually use this Comasi Brilliant Blue dye in order to bind to the complexes of these proteins and gently give them a negative charge, hopefully without disrupting the complexes. Now you have these complexes that you can send traveling through the gel, and they're going to travel through the gel, and as the big ones are going to kind of have a harder time going through, and so they're going to be higher up compared to the smaller complexes or the smaller individual proteins. And so you could take a complex, and if you were to run it on a blue native page, you would see a high band, and then maybe you see some lower bands if you have kind of like dissociated complexes, so they're kind of like partial complexes and stuff, those would show up lower down. But if you run an SDS page, now you're going to see multiple bands, and each of those is going to correspond to the size of one of the proteins in the complex. And so if you have a heteromeric complex, so you have multiple different proteins in the complex, you're going to see a single band, or if you have like a pure complex that's all like none of it is partial complex, you'd see one band on your blue native page. But on the SDS page, now you're going to see a band for each of the different proteins in the complex. If you have a homomeric complex, so something like a homotetramer, so you have 4 copies of the same chain of a protein, now on your native page you would see one band with the higher up corresponding to the tetramer, and then you would see on the SDS page one band that was low down corresponding to the molecular weight of the monomer. Now, how are you going to know the molecular weight? You can't just use your normal ladder, because those protein standard ladders that you normally get are going to be kind of pre-made for the SDS page, meaning that they're denatured, they've got all that SDS and stuff, so that's not going to work. They make kind of like native page ladders that are just kind of like proteins of known sizes, and you can also make your own mix. And sometimes you might want to do this if you, say, have proteins of a known size that you want to be able to compare to. In terms of running these, so when you run an SDS page, things typically heat up. You like crank up the voltage, you want to get that run going real fast, although you kind of want to crank it down if you want a nice crisp band. But with a blue native page, it's like, okay, well, we don't want to get these hot, because if we get things hot, these complexes might fall apart. So instead we typically run them in the cold room, and we run them for longer. But at this way, you're kind of able to hopefully keep those complexes together. And again, the way that we're going to give these complexes the negative charge, however, to go through the gel is going to be with the blue in the blue native. Now, if you think about your gel box, inside of the gel box, you kind of have that inner chamber, and that's going to be like your cathode chamber, and then you have the anode chamber in the outside. What you're going to want to do is you put the dye in that inner chamber, in that cathode chamber, and so this is like a cathode additive which has the dye. You start by loading the wells of the gel with your inner buffer, and so that inner buffer is going to be the cathode buffer. It's got the dye in it. You start by loading the wells, so fill the wells with that buffer before you put your samples in. Now you're going to put your samples in, and now your samples are going to be meeting that dye, and they're going to get that nice negative hug. Now, you want to kind of like do that before you fill that inner chamber, because once you fill that inner chamber, it's really hard to see anything because you're filling it with a cathode buffer which has the dye in it. Now, in the outer chamber, you're going to put the anode buffer, and the anode buffer doesn't have the dye in it, and so when you're filling up the inner chamber, you want to try to avoid getting any of that cathode buffer into the outer chamber, because you don't want the dye out there making a mess. You do want to make sure that inner chamber isn't leaking though, and so I recommend setting up the cassette, pouring a little bit of the buffer into that inner chamber, making sure it doesn't leak, and then going ahead and filling the wells with the buffer. And so you can kind of use a P1000, just pipette across the top, fill those wells. Now go ahead and load your samples in, and then fill up that inner chamber. about halfway through the gel, once the dye is kind of like halfway through, and so about 30 minutes or so, what you're going to want to do is you're actually going to want to remove that cathode buffer from the inner chamber and fill it with the anode buffer. So you remove the version that has the dye, and then you add the version without the dye. And this is going to kind of help prevent overstaining of your gel. But you're going to see that the gels is going to be like dark blue. If you got a lot of a protein, you'll actually be able to see a band as it's running through, or kind of like once you take things out, because the blue buffer in the middle is going to make it so you can't see much. But once you take your gel out, you might see, oh, there's actually a band there if you have a lot of a protein. But there's also going to be a lot of hidden proteins that you can't see, and so then you're going to actually want to go and stain it with like your typical Comasi stain. And this is the Comasi stain, the typical stain. Now you're gonna actually have conditions in which the proteins are going to kind of like precipitate and get stuck in the gel. And so you have typically more like acidic conditions with ethanol or methanol, and that's gonna kind of like freeze the proteins in place so they don't wander away. And then the Comasi in there is gonna be really concentrated, and it's gonna go and stain your protein. So although you only see the big bands in the beginning, you will be able to see those fainter bands when you do the staining afterwards. So what you're going to do is you're going to set up your box, prepare the cathode buffer with the dye and the anode buffer without the dye. You prepare your samples on ice, keep them nice and cold, keep them happy, try to keep them as complexes if they're complexes. Now you're going to take your cathode buffer, that inner chamber buffer with the dye, and you're going to fill the wells. You're going to load your samples into those wells. You're going to fill up that inner chamber with that cathode buffer. Try not to get any of that into the outer chamber. Now you're going to fill the outer chamber with the anode buffer, so just enough to like cover the bottom of the gel. You're going to run that gel for about 30 minutes. Then you're going to take it like a serological pipette or something. You're going to remove that cathode buffer from the inner chamber. So remove the dye containing buffer and then add in anode buffer. And so that's going to be the one without the dye, and then let it run longer. So for about like 70 more minutes. And so then you have about 100 minutes total, which is longer than your typical SDS-PAGE. But you can do other things while it's running and stuff. Well, speaking of it, okay, well, now it's done running. And so you kind of need to time things out more with the native page than you do with the SDS-PAGE. If you're using like a pre-stained ladder with an SDS-PAGE, or you have that dye front, you can kind of watch it. With the native page, you kind of have to more time things because you don't have that really to look at. But you're going to let it run, you're going to take it out, you're going to rinse it off, you're going to rinse it off, you're going to stain it with the Comasi based stain, or you're going to do whatever else you want to do with the gel. And so sometimes what you might be doing is actually doing like a two-dimensional page, and so you might do like a native page followed by an SDS page in the other direction or thing. So there's some cool stuff that you could do. But the really cool thing is that you're keeping the complexes together, as opposed to SDS-PAGE, where you're going to, by denaturing the protein, you're denaturing all the complexes, you're losing all the information about whether or not your protein was alone or hanging out with friends.